Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome to Rachel is Reading, and today I'm going to be doing the Stranger Things book tag. So this tag was originally made by Sarah Sunbeams, and I saw it when Paperback Dreams did it, and I absolutely loved it. Stranger Things has got to be one of my favorite TV shows ever. Everybody around me, I have forced them to watch it. My boyfriend, my friends, my mom, everybody. I love it so much. I love the characters and I love the world, and I've rewatched it a gazillion times, so I figured that this would be fitting to do something at the beginning of my channel. I have the questions on my computer, so if I'm looking over here, that's why. And yeah, the questions are based on things from the show, like the intro, D&D, the friendship, etc. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to get into it. Question 1, Epic Intro. The opening sequence of Stranger Things is amazing and really grabs your attention. Name a book that grabs your attention from the first page. That's so true. I love the intro of Stranger Things. I love that song, even though it's just like a bass beat. So the book that I'm going to be choosing for this tag is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. This is an adult version of Scooby-Doo, which sounds really weird, but like, hear me out. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I thought that it was so creative. It's basically about this group of adults that when they were teenagers solved mysteries just like in Scooby-Doo of monsters and things like that, but were just people under masks. And after a while they all got estranged, they all went their separate ways as they grew up, and then 2 of the characters meet up again and find out that something really weird is going on, so they all get together to solve one last mystery, and it's so good. It's not really like something I've ever read, and for it to be adult instead of young adult, I think was a really interesting take on it. I think it brought some things that maybe wouldn't have been introduced to the story if it was YA, and I really, really liked it. As I said, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and the first page is fascinating. It starts immediately with like an action scene, and just the concept, because I love Scooby-Doo when I was a kid, so the concept of it was so cool, and it just grabbed my attention from the very first chapter, and I didn't want to put it down ever since. Question number 2 is Dungeons & Dragons. Name a fantasy world that you would like to experience yourself. So I know this is a pretty popular answer in this tag, but I don't think I could say anything else except saying Harry Potter, which I feel like everybody would, and I'm gonna say The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have not finished reading this yet. I have less than 50 pages, so as soon as I stop filming, I'm gonna go and finish this. This book is unlike anything I have ever read. It's like it just radiates magic from the pages. I wish I was kidding. Like, it's so insanely heartbreaking and fascinating, and it just pulls you in, and the world is so, I don't know what else to say, but like enchanting and magical. The story is basically about this thing called the Night Circus, which, preceding warning, how do I even explain the Night Circus? Is this circus that, no, it's called, how many times am I gonna have to try and explain the Night Circus? This story is basically about this circus called the Circus of Dreams. I don't want to try and say it in French, but it's described in French. And it's a circus that just appears out of nowhere, and with no warning preceding it, and when it leaves, nobody knows where it goes. The entire thing is a mystery, and it's filled with magic. It's put on by magic, and it's about these 2 characters that you follow as... And it has multiple timelines. One of them is these 2 characters, the 2 main characters that you follow through the Night Circus. They both work there, and how they're supposed to be in this competition for their entire lives, and they've been training to be in this competition for their whole life, and now that the circus is up, they have to do this competition. And another one of the perspectives is an outsider that finds the circus, and another is these 2 characters that are born inside of the circus. And I think my favorite part is that all of these perspectives at the end up coming together. They're all at different time points. Like, one of the perspectives is before the other 2, and they all come together at some point, which I think is so cool, that you end up having all these characters interacting at the end. But the world is just the coolest, most enchanting thing ever. Like, I've never been to a real circus, but I want to go here so bad. Question 3 is Squad Goals. When Eleven might... Oh my god. Dustin, Lucas, it was a... Number 3, Squad Goals. When 11 met Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, it was a mostly perfect team. Name your favorite bookish group of characters. So for this, I'm going to be doing The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I feel like this is a very popular answer for this. The group of friends in this, Blue, Adam, Noah, Ronan, and Gansey, I absolutely love the dynamic of the friendship in this book. I think that it's so wholesome most of the time, and I just want to be friends with them, and I want to be in this world. This is another world that I could say, for the last question, that I would really love to be able to experience. It's so magical and cool, and oh, I just love it. And she meets this group of boys, Adam, Rowan, Gansey, and Noah, who are on a quest to find this deceased Welsh king, and the mystery behind it. I think that the concept of this book is so cool, it's so magical, and Maggie Stiefvater's writing is just so beautiful and lyrical. That's probably one of my favorite parts of this story, is her writing, and the friendship between all the characters is just so nice to read about. It's so beautiful, and yeah, I am so excited for her to release her new trilogy. I don't know when it's coming, there's no release date, there's no cover, there's no anything, but I know that it's happening, and I just want it right now. Question 4 is ABCs and Christmas Lights. Joyce Byers goes mad with grief after Will goes missing. Name your favorite mentally unhinged character. So for this, I am going to be choosing Amy Dunn, or Amy Doon, from Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I loved this book. I know that some people didn't really like it. I feel like it's either very split, either you loved it or you hated it, but personally I really liked this book. Found it really interesting that I ended up rooting for Amy, even though she definitely was not supposed to be the protagonist of the story, but one of my favorite, I guess, tropes in books is unlikable main characters. I think that they're so interesting to read about, and Amy is definitely one of them. So Gone Girl is an adult mystery thriller about this man named Nick Dunn whose wife has mysteriously gone missing, and nobody knows where she went. And basically it's about him trying to find her and the mystery that unfolds within that. And this book was so intense and just well crafted, and Gillian Flynn is a genius when it comes to writing crime. I really want to read her other 2 books, Dark Places and Sharp Objects. So question 5 is The Upside Down. Name a book that was the opposite of what you expected. So because of BookTube, I often find myself knowing the premises and the beginnings of books before I go into them and read them, just because people talk about them all the time and talk about what they're about. But no matter how many times I heard people talk about this book, I didn't quite grasp it until I really did read it, and that book is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. So I'm gonna do my best to describe this book, but I still don't know if I can put it into words very well. It's basically about this girl named Holly who is a part of this program called Project Scrooge, where every year they have to choose somebody to be the new Scrooge and attempt to turn their life around with the story of the Christmas Carol before they get killed. And in the beginning of the book, you find out that Holly is actually a Scrooge herself. She's a failed Scrooge. She was rich and stuck up and mean and just awful to everybody around her, and her Christmas Carol failed. And so she now works at Project Scrooge. And basically it's just a story of Holly working with Project Scrooge to try and turn the life of a teenage boy around who she ends up starting to like. And this book was so, I don't want to say weird because that makes it sound bad. It was so interesting. It was so different than anything that I've ever read before. It was kind of weirdly futuristic in a way to me. I don't know if anybody else has gotten that vibe from it, but just the idea of Project Scrooge is just really fascinating to me, and how the elements of The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens was pulled into it. They even had exact quotes from it in the story, like they had the characters use the actual book in the story, and I think that that was really cool. But it was just absolutely like nothing that I'd ever read before, and I just thought it was so good, and I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars. Number 6 is Mad Scientists. Dr. Brenner likes to get freaky with humanity. Name the freakiest dystopian government you can think of. Honestly, if I could, I would say Stranger Things for this, just because it's kind of fucked up, but for this instead I'm going to be saying Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. And I know that this is not the weirdest dystopian that's ever been written, it's actually very mundane, but the idea of it just really scares me for some reason. This story is about a girl named Juliet who in the beginning of the story has been locked in the cell for 264 days and has not spoken or touched anybody since. She was locked up because she found out that she had these superpowers that she would basically hurt or kill anything that she touched. And again, this obviously sounds like a very mundane dystopian, and it is, but just the concept of having somebody with these powers being locked up for so long and then letting them out with all of this pent-up rage and power in them and then going off into the world is really scary to me because there's so much that this person could do. And I also chose this because I haven't read that much dystopian, and so I really don't have too much to go off of. I would say The Hunger Games, but I feel like that's a really common answer. And yeah, I really like this series. I know it's kind of hit or miss for a lot of people, but I am so excited for Defy Me to come out later this year. I have blown through this series, every one of the books I've read super fast, and yeah. I think I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars when I first read it. Alright, question 7 is Demogorgon. Name a scary bookish creature that you would not want to come through your walls. But Rachel, didn't you talk about this in your last video? You've only uploaded 2 videos and this book has been featured in both of them. Can't you talk about something else? No, I can't. So, for this question, obviously I'm going to choose Pennywise from It by Stephen King. Listen, a creature that can transform into the thing that you are most afraid of is horrifying to me. And not just like a Boggart from Harry Potter where you can cast a spell and make it go away. This thing doesn't go away until it kidnaps you and eats you. And personally, I don't want a giant 10-foot spider coming into my room at night, or a clown for that matter. I am horrified of both of those things, and the concept that it could just turn into that at any time and come try and take me is horrifying to me. For this question, I could also say the mantis demons from the Mortal Instruments world. Those things are terrifying. Every time that they come into the story and they're described, they make me so uncomfortable and just, I don't like them. And finally, question 8 is cliffhanger ending. Name a book that left you wanting more. And while this book didn't end on a cliffhanger, it was a book that I just never wanted to finish. I kept reading it really slow because I didn't want it to end. I just loved it so much. And that book is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So basically, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what this book is about, it's essentially about this Hollywood starlet from around the 50s named Evelyn Hugo who kind of takes after Marilyn Monroe in a way. That's how I always kind of thought of her. And she was incredibly famous, especially for all of her scandals that happened in her life. And ever since some extremely tragic events later in her life, she had taken herself out of the public eye and nobody had heard a thing from her. And this journalist named Monique in the present day was commissioned to write this exclusive article about Evelyn Hugo, interviewing her about these dresses that she was going to be auctioning off from her past. And I know that this, maybe from how I've explained it, doesn't sound incredible, but I thought that it was just so interesting about how Evelyn would tell her story and how you would get transported back into the past while she told these stories. And it was just so fascinating. I loved the old Hollywood kind of setting. I loved Evelyn as a character. This book had incredible bisexual rep in it, which I had no idea going into it, but it made me cry sometimes. I thought that it was absolutely fantastic. There are so many quotes in this book that I just want plastered across my wall. I got so attached to some of the characters. It made me laugh, it made me cry. I wanted to throw it half the time in a good way. And I just never wanted this book to end. I think that it's good that it's a standalone. This couldn't be a series, obviously, but I just wish that I had more of it. I loved it so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I feel like this is something that everybody should read. Okay, so that is it for the Stranger Things book tag. I really enjoyed doing that. I would love to do more tags in the future. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment. I would love to talk to you. I have all my social media links, Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads linked in the description if you want to check that out. And I will see you in another video soon. I love you. Goodbye.